A series is a group of episodes of a television show. They are broken up by groups. In America, they are called seasons because there is usually one series per season. The narrative goes on throughout the entire show, which can go on for years at a time. An example would be Supernatural. Its narrative unfolds continuously, and the characters always have new obstacles to overcome a few series at a time. There is no definite ending. Series are a group of episodes of a television show whose narrative unfolds episode by episode. Dead Set is an example. It's 5 episodes long, and the narrative covers the breakout of a zombie apocalypse while people are stuck in the Big Brother house. The narrative goes from beginning to end within those 5 episodes. A single drama is a single episode with the narrative included in one whole episode. Because the narrative can be expansive, depending on what's being covered, they can go on longer than series and serials. They usually last 60 minutes. Tommy Cooper, Not Like That, Like This is an example of a single drama. It was made in 2014 and a 100-minute piece looks at the love life of British comedian Tommy Cooper. Genres are in all TV and film productions. Period genre is a television show which is set many decades in the past. An example would be Downton Abbey. This is set in 1912 and its narrative includes obstacles which were present in that time, such as the First World War. Drama doc is a genre which dramatises and reenacts real events. The 2012 documentary film The Imposter is an example as it uses a real-life story, interview techniques and drama sequences. Soap operas in the UK are continuously running TV shows which portray relatable characters in a working-class community. They often are faced with great unfortunate situations on a regular basis which keeps the story running for many years it goes on for. An example would be EastEnders. Comedy genres in TV productions are commonly found in the USA. Parks and Recreation was an American comedy series. They show a funny cast in funny situations. Linear or sequential narrative is a narrative which is told in the order that happened. An example of a film with a linear narrative is Step Brothers. It goes on in the order of how it happened. A man meets a woman, they marry, they move in together, their sons become friends, they get a divorce, the sons hate each other, they get married again. On the contrary, non-linear or non-sequential is a narrative which is out of order. Out of order meaning back to front, or jumps to different points of the story throughout. Kill Bill is an example of a non-linear narrative. Volume 1 starts with her killing the second person on her list, then jumps back to her waking up in the hospital and teaching herself to walk, and ends with her killing the first person on her list. Flashback in film is when the sequence jumps back to a moment. The character initiates the flashback sometimes by mentioning it briefly, then making a motion signalling the flashback. An example of a film with a flashback is American History X. The flashbacks are signalled by switching from colour, which are in the present day, to black and white, which are the flashbacks. Open endings are the ending of a film or TV show which are left to the audience to decide for themselves what happens next. This happens on TV series on series finales. Alternatively, closed endings wrap the show up and give a solid finish which needs no questioning by the audience. An example of a film with an open ending is Blade Runner. The audience is left to decide whether he is a replicant with an origami unicorn which appeared in his dream sequence earlier. An example of a film with a closed ending is The Avengers in 2012. The film ends with the heroes having defeated the bad guys. To make a sequence interesting, a variety of different angles are needed to engage with the audience to keep them interested. There are different shot types which are usually used in order. A wide shot, or an establishing shot, lets the audience know where the scene is and who is there by showing full bodies and surroundings. A mid-shot shows body language showing upwards from the chest area. A headshot is able to show a change of tone or emotion in a sequence. These are shown from the shoulders and neck upwards. This is an example of an extreme close-up in Requiem for a Dream. The use of extreme close-up shows a physical change in the character, in this instance after taking a drug. Using a dolly lets the camera operator move the entire camera. These are useful when it comes to sequence shots. Dolly out and in means the entire camera moves back and forth. Panning can be used like a wide shot in the sense that it can show an environment and set the scene. The camera will twist from left to right or right to left. Tilting is similar to panning, however the camera will move up and down as opposed to side. Zooming in is when the camera's lens gets closer to the subject. Zooming out is when the lens gets further away. Zooming isn't often used, but as an instance where it is used is when a filmmaker wants a contra-zoom, otherwise known as a trombone shot. This is a method most well known for its use in Jaws. Contra zooming is when the camera moves backwards on a dolly, while the zoom twists the lens so it zooms in and gets closer to what the dolly grip is moving the camera away from. The rule of thirds is a guideline on cameras. The shot is split into 9 sections 3 by 3. The rule says that a face, for example, the eye should sit on the intersection of the lines at the top right of the shot. This can give a neater look to the shot. Breaking this rule can result in negative space. This is when a large portion of the shot is empty. This shot is an example of breaking conventions and the rule of thirds to use a lot of negative space to signify an inferiority of the character Mickey Rourke is portraying. Inferiority can also be shown using high-angle shots. This can be done by positioning the camera over the actor. This makes them look small. Superiority can also be portrayed using a low-angle shot. This can make the audience feel small and makes the actor look big, important, and dominant. Dutch angle shots are used to signify that there's something not quite right in the current scene. This is done by positioning the camera at an angle. High key lighting is a type of light used in film and TV to suggest positivity or something good. It uses the filler light and the backlight to evenly distribute light, so there is little difference between light and dark areas. Low key lighting uses one light, usually a key light, to highlight specific parts of, for example, a face. The high contrast it creates gives the shot a mysterious look. This effect is also used in chiaroscuro. This lighting term is used to describe a very obvious difference between light and dark areas. Naturalistic lighting is an effect used to create outdoor scenes. The light is designed to look natural rather than man-made. This gives it a realistic look and feel. Furthermore, in realism in lighting, realistic lighting is a method used to get typical looking household light in a shot. ADR, or automated dialogue replacement, is a method in which actors will re-record lines from a scene that they are in, and a sound engineer will dub their voice over the top to replace the original audio. It's recorded in a controlled environment with no unwanted audio. This can be difficult to get right as the actor will need to re-record multiple lines at a time in one shot at the exact pace as they said it during the actual shoot. It's also difficult for the editor to sync up the audio perfectly. It's mostly needed, however, as if a scene is filmed outdoors, it's more than likely noise pollution will be picked up like wind. Foley sound effects are used like ADR. A group of people will be in a Foley recording studio and will use objects to mimic sounds in a scene that is being shown in front of them. There can be different surfaces in the studio which makes different sounds. This will mimic the sound of footsteps. Crashing tinny objects and chairs can mimic the sound of hectic movement. This is needed in film production because the right sounds will never be picked up on set in a shoot and sound perfect. Ambient sound is intentional background noise. This is used to make scenes seem authentic. Because just voices won't make a scene sound real, layers upon layers of ambient sound needs to be used to make a scene sound real. There is no such thing as silence, so sound recorders need to pick up any sounds from an air conditioning unit to a busy street. If we had a scene in a forest, the layers of ambient sound would need to include rustling leaves, trees, birds, wildlife, and wind. A clean cut is the simplest method of editing. It's quite simply when one shot directly cuts to another. A dissolve is when one shot fades into another. A fade to black is used to signify the end of a scene. It's when a shot fades to a solid colour matte. Cross-cutting is when a scene constantly cuts back and forth between two separate scenes which are happening at the same time. This happens in Inception. The cross-cutting is used to cut back and forth between two different dream levels. An ellipsis is when the scene leaves out a piece of information and leaves it to the audience to fill in themselves. A graphic matched cut is an editing technique notably used in 2001 at Space Odyssey. This is when one scene ends and the next scene starts with an object similar to the object seen in the last scene. In 2001, the bone is thrown into the air, then the scene cuts to a spacecraft similar in shape, right where the bone cut out. This can signify a passage of time or significance. A sequence shot is one continuous shot that has no cuts. This gives a realistic feel to the scene. An example is this shot in Kill Bill Volume 1. The single shot reportedly took 6 hours and 17 takes to film.
ちょっとわがままなんてもんじゃないでしょう、もう。
あんたそんなこと聞かれたらどうなると思ってんの。
何ですか。
聞いたでしょ。あんたの首切り落とさせるわよ。
それもっと嫌だよ。
嫌でしょ。だから早く聞かせて。
はい、私ですが、はい。
A wipe is an editing technique that's been used in Star Wars. This is when a shot wipes from one side to another or up and down to push one scene off of the screen and pull another on. A montage is a small sequence which shows a large narrative in a short amount of time. It can also be seen as a series of ellipses as they leave small bits of information out. They are commonly found in chick flick movies with makeover scenes. A jump cut is a cut that breaks continuity. This example from The Shining shows 1 second the two girls are alive, then the shot cuts and they are seen dead on the floor. Scripting is the entire narrative. Without the script, there would be no production at all. Scriptwriters have the ability to hook an audience to a narrative. To build a scene, you need to look at what the genre is and base its look and aesthetic on the conventions of it. For example, Star Trek is a sci-fi film. Some conventions are space, spaceships and aliens. If the film, or at least a large portion of the film, was not set in space, the film's scene would not be built in the way it's needed to fit the genre's conventions. Building the story before going ahead is a vital detail of any production, big or small. This involves giving the characters backstories that delve into their lives. These backstories can make the character likeable, dislikable, and relatable. If the story isn't built correctly, continuity can be broken and the characterization can become blurred in some cases.